Hakuho listeners, let's learn sumo. I'm Clayton. Welcome to the podcast. Hope you enjoyed the May Basho. So we have what is likely the final chapter in the Hokuseiho Myagino bullying scandal. Now, quick catch-up of where we came from. Former Yokozuna Hakuho, who was the Myagino Stable Oyakata, or coach, he was in charge of Megashira Rikshi Hokuseiho, a Mongolian wrestler. Very tall boy. Hokuseiho was known for his very inactive style of sumo, where he would deliberately use his size and bulk to lean on smaller wrestlers to resist movement. It was a very defensive and sometimes effective style, which led to one fight against the smaller Midori Fuji lasting almost 7 minutes. Now that included a water break as Hokuseiho just leaned on the smaller wrestler and resisted any and all of Midori Fuji's offensive moves. In the end, he wore Midori Fuji out and won that fight. That was in September 2023, if you're looking for that one. In early 2024, there were rumblings of a scandal when Hokuseiho was abruptly withdrawn from the January tournament without any reason. Shortly thereafter, it became known that Hokuseiho was being investigated for violence and stealing from his stablemates. We won't go into all of it, but it was pretty bad. And Oyakata Hakuho, who was already not a favourite of the JSA, was under investigation for ignoring the violence and even covering up some of the violence and not supervising his wrestlers properly at the stable. Very quickly, as the investigation progressed, Hokuseiho decided to retire from sumo. The JSA moved all of the Myagino wrestlers temporarily to the Isegahama stable under the supervision of Isegahama Oyakata. Now, the living conditions for those Myagino stable boys was quite poor. They were in a basement. They had one bath for about 10 guys. It was a pretty difficult situation. They weren't having a good time of it. As a result, after the next tournament, a number of the Myagino wrestlers retired from sumo. Now, Hakuho suffered the humiliation of being demoted as an Oyakata and made to follow his wrestlers from Myagino to become an assistant under supervision at Isegahama Stable. As Isegahama Oyakata retired due to reaching the age of 65, his pupil Terunofuji Yokozuna took over the stable. It was in this time in 2025 that Hakuho couldn't get a definitive answer from the JSA as to when he could restart his stable. So in the end, he decided to retire from sumo as well and focus his energies on amateur sumo, including the Hakuho Cup. Now, the Cup was held successfully again this year after Hakuho had retired from the professional organisation, but it wasn't held at the Kokugikan National Sumo Stadium. It was held in the Toyota Stadium in Tokyo due to his strong connection with the head of the Toyota Motor Corporation and likely to take a very big break from the JSA. Now, as Hakuho continues to promote amateur sumo, including women's sumo and sumo in the Olympics, the Myagino wrestlers stayed under new Oyakata Terunofuji. Now, we saw just before the January tournament, Terunofuji Oyakata forced all of the Myagino wrestlers to update their wrestling shikona to the Isegahama suffix of Fuji. So, for example, Hakuoho became Hakuno Fuji. Now, the only wrestler who resisted this was Enho, who retained his shikona, his nod to his former mentor, Hakuho. Now, rumours abound about why that was resisted and how that came about. Now, the final chapter of the Myagino stable was pretty much released by the JSA this week. The statement reads, on the May the 28th, the Japan Sumo Association held a board of directors meeting at Ryogoku Kokugikan in Tokyo and announced its decision to lift the temporary custody status of the members of the former Myagino stable effective today. Moving forward, all wrestlers and staff from the former Myagino stable will officially and permanently belong to the Isegahama stable. Now, the background, the former Myagino stable was placed under temporary closure after its then mentor, Myagino Oyakata, former Yokozuna Hakuho, was penalised for a breach of supervisory duties regarding a violent incident involving former wrestler Hokuseiho. As a result, all stable masters, wrestlers and backroom staff were transferred under the temporary custody of Isegahama, which belongs to the same Isegahama faction in April 2024. while the duration of the custody agreement was left indefinite, the JSA board decided to lift the temporary status by a majority vote based on the following reasons. More than 2 years has passed since the custody arrangement began. 1 year has passed since the retirement of former mentor Myagino Oyakata, and as of today, no application or request to revive the Myagino stable has been submitted to the board. And there it is, so it ends. But does it? When Enho retires with elder stock and a strong financial background, he could still take over the Myagino name at some point. But what today amounts to is that he would need to build it with his own wrestlers, not ones transferred from Isegahama back to Myagino. It would be a totally fresh start where the former wrestlers of Myagino would be unlikely to be allowed to go back due to JSA rules and likely their attitude to the former stable. It effectively is the finality that those Isegahama Myagino boys are now permanently Isegahama. They either accept it or they retire. Now the JSA have achieved the removal of everything Hakuho. A welcome goal that they likely wanted for many years as they couldn't control him in the way that they wanted. So that is the end of a long and difficult saga caused by Hokuseiho. Thanks for joining me again, folks. Join me on the socials and YouTube where this is restreamed. Also, video episodes. Don't forget to go to the playlists and check out those video episodes. There's quite a few there, different subjects, a few little documentaries. I have a new video episode coming shortly and a special preview episode in the days before the Nagoya tournament from a very special location. Don't join me then, folks. Hakuho, let's learn sumo.